All right, everybody, it's party time here at My Kind of Country on Fish Creek Radio with the gentleman who has had 20 number one songs, including the one you just heard. Over 25 albums, chart-topping hits like Last Cheater's Waltz, I Loved Him Every One, Do You Want to Go to Heaven, and many, many more. He is a legend in country music. It's a pleasure to welcome T.G. Sheppard to My Kind of Country. How are you today?
I'm fine, Scott. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us. It's a pleasure.
Well, the pleasure's all mine.
Well, I got a lot of questions I want to ask you today, so if you start running short on time, you just let me know, okay?
No, you go right ahead.
Well, I want to go back when you first started out. I have in my hands 45 on an Atco label. And
no.
You already know what I'm going to talk about. It's called High School Days, and the artist is Brian Stacy. You wouldn't happen to know who that is, would you?
Oh, God. I can't believe you even found a copy of that, Scott. Really, I mean, yeah, that's back when I was, I don't know, gosh, that was another lifetime ago. That was back when I thought that I wanted to be a pop act, and everybody back then, they had these names like Tommy Rowe and Brian Hyland and Paul Anka and Fabian, and I thought, well, you know, hey, I would try it. But no, yeah, man, you did some homework to find that record.
I've actually had it for a while. I came across it some years ago, and I was reading an article about you, and it mentioned that, and I said, well, that's who that is, because the voice sounded familiar, and I thought, man, I'm going to hang on to that one.
Oh, my God. I don't even have a copy of that record. You've got something Oh, my God. Those were fun days. Those were when I was just... had gotten to Memphis and was looking for a break and was just searching, trying to find a direction with music. I didn't know that it would take me many, many years later to finally find my home in country music through a very dear friend of mine who encouraged me to become a country singer. His name was Waylon Jennings.
Oh, wow. Very cool. Well, you were a pretty big record promoter for RCA for some time too, right? Yeah,
I started off in the record side, in the business side of the record business, which really and truly I think sometimes was a plus and then sometimes a minus for me, because for a long time people didn't take me serious as a singer because I was a record executive. But then again, on the positive side, I met a lot of great friends in radio that really kind of came to my rescue when I did start recording and helped me out. So, yeah, I was in the record business a lot of years before I became an entertainer.
Well, that's pretty cool. And there was a pretty famous guy that gave you your first tour bus back in 1976. Who would that have been?
Oh, my gosh. Of course, that would be the one and only Elvis Presley. I mean, he was... I don't know. See, I was a runaway at the age of 15, Scott, and I hitchhiked down to Memphis, and I don't know, Helen. I think God sometimes has plans for us that we don't really know until they happen. And one night, I'm in a roller rink one night and leaving the skating rink, and they were closing it down, or at least I thought they were, and a couple of Cadillacs pull up out front, and I'm standing out there, as I say, I'm homeless, basically, starving to death, and was a runaway, and Elvis got out of one of the Cadillacs and walked right up to me and asked me where I was going, and I said, well, I'm leaving. They're closing the rink down. He said, no, they're opening it up for me. He said, we skate all night long here a couple of nights a week, and we play a little game called Kill on skates, and I'm a man short on my team. Will you be on my team? And I said, I kept looking around. I said, is he talking to me? And he said, yeah, I'm a man short. And I said, yes, sir, I'd be glad to. So we went inside and played a little game called football on skates for about 4 or 5 hours, and that was the start of an incredible friendship that just, wow, I can't talk enough about it. I was very blessed to have been at the right place at the right time.
Absolutely. I wasn't aware of that, and one of the things I want to talk about here in a little bit, I picked up a 2 CD set and a DVD a few years ago, Partners in Rhyme, that you put out, which is fabulous, by the way. And
thank you.
You were talking about about Elvis on there and going back to Graceland and going around at some of the old haunts, and I didn't know about that. I thought that was a pretty cool story.
Well, you know, when we did the Partners in Rhyme project, which really and truly never did make it out to the total public, we'll probably do it this next year. We decided to film the sessions and film my beginnings in Memphis and on the DVD portion, and you know, it was just it was a very magical time for me in my life, and I still sometimes have to pinch myself because I don't know. I actually some days will look in the mirror and go, "That was I really there? Were we really that close friends?" And you know, I was there, and yes, we were that close of friends. I was just a very blessed person to be able to have met Elvis and lived in Memphis and be able to call him a close friend.
Well, he clearly saw the potential in you, and obviously it paid off over the years. You definitely proved that.
Well, I sometimes wish he was here. I wonder sometimes what he would think with the records that we had and the things that we've done in our career. You know, would he have been proud of me? And I think he would have. He really believed in me, and he single-handedly gave me the confidence to go out there and really go for it, because I said to myself, if Elvis thinks I've got a shot at this, maybe I really do. He gave me that confidence.
That's really awesome. Well, you you were also, your first big hit was Devil in a Bottle, and that was your first #1. And it was on a country offshoot of Motown Records. That's another thing I didn't know until I was doing some research there.
That was a strange beginning. I mean, it just goes to show you, Scott, you never know where that break is going to come from. And I would have never thought in a million years that I would have been discovered by Berry Gordy at Motown.
Yeah.
I mean, who discovered Michael Jackson and the Supremes and Lionel Richie and the Commodores. And I mean, wow. And what's the chances of that happening? And they were starting a country division, and he heard my demo or my record and signed me to my first contract. And it was just, I still to this day, in life, if you're at the right place at the right time, magic happens. And I was at the right place at the right time once again.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, you know, I guess country guys, they like the old Motown. I know I do. Of course, I'm from Michigan, but man, I love Smokey Robinson and the Temps and everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Good stuff. If it's good music, I like it. I always tell people when they ask me what kind of music I like, I say, well, pretty much anything old I like.
Well, I was a huge fan of the Drifters and that music of the 50s and 60s. And, of course, Motown was just so huge back then. And, of course, through the years, you know, I became good friends with Lionel Richie, and because he was on the label with the Commodores. And so I made a lot of great friendships through the years. And I have learned in my lifetime the most important part of your life is not money, and it's not hit records, and it's not fame. The most important part of anyone's life is the relationships that you have, whether it be with God, or whether it be with your friends or your family or artists. I mean, relationships last forever, and the fame and the money and all that other stuff, that doesn't last forever, but friendships do.
Amen. Well said. I have few very, what I call really close friends in my life, but they've always been there. And the other thing that's always been there for me and always will be is the music, you know, and that's can never be taken away, you know, and it's
never.
I call this show musical therapy because that's exactly what it is, you know.
Well, you know, that's what I do every day on stage. When I walk on stage, somebody says, "What's it like to walk on stage every day?" And I say the same thing as you just said. It's like therapy for me. I get to walk on stage and be heard and get a chance to release whatever's bothering me that day through the music. And it really and truly is an awesome thing that you'd never take for granted, to be able to be heard, whether it be on the radio, such as yourself, or whether it be on a stage performing. We both are very lucky guys to be able to make a living doing what we love.
You bet. Absolutely. I totally agree with you there. I want to ask you about one of your earlier songs. It's one of my favorites. Of course, you got so many great songs, and everybody knows so many of your stuff and have listened to it. But one of my favorites was Motels and Memories. Can you tell me a little bit about that song?
Wow, it's funny you picked that song. You know, you never know where a song is going to come from, and so therefore, even until this day, if somebody walks up and says, I got a song for you to listen to, I always try to find time to listen. I'm at home one night after we'd had a few hit records in Memphis, and maybe 10 o'clock at night, 10:30, and the doorbell rings, and I walk to the door, and there's a total stranger standing there. And why I opened the door, I don't know. I mean, late at night, but I did. And I stood there, and he said, Mr. Sheppard, I'm Don Miller. And I said, yes, sir, Mr. Miller. And he said, I'm the principal across the street at the high school. I said, oh, you're the principal? He said, yes. And I've written this song that I think can be a hit for you. And I said, well, come on in. So I'm glad I invited him in because he played me a song he'd written called Motels and Memories. And so who would have ever thought that you open up your door and a person standing there would be bringing you a hit song, let alone a high school principal?
No kidding.
You never know where that next song's coming from. So I've always had my ear to the ground and I always listened to songs, but that's how I found that song.
Wow, that's really cool. Well, thanks for sharing that story. I've always kind of wondered about that one. It's always been one of my favorite songs that you did, and I thought, well, I'm going to ask you about that one. And the song I think I get the most requests for of yours, of course, was a huge hit for a Song of the Year 1980, Last Cheater's Waltz.
Wow. That one, Sonny Throckmorton, great songwriter. It was just one of those songs that the minute you hear it, you know that it could be a classic. And I felt that song so strongly before we ever went in the studio with my record producer at that time, Buddy Killen. And I had heard Sonny's version of it, and I said, this could be one of those signature songs in an artist's life. And so you always know when you walk out of the recording studio if you've hit magic or not. And I knew that day when we left the studio. I went home that night, and I knew that I had cut a magic song that day. And sure enough, it came out, and it was a huge record for me, and has continued to live all of these years. Still, people come up to me and say, we still dance to that song because it's a waltz.
Yep. Yeah, waltzes are kind of tricky. It's hard to get a big monster hit like that with a waltz in country music, but it's been done. Yours was one of them, and I know Rose-Colored Glasses is another one, and there's a few of them.
Another one that's big like that is Lucille. That's right. And Rogers, another waltz. And then years ago, I had a very dear friend of mine, Roger Miller.
Yeah.
Came up to me and he said, Shep, if you can hook a waltz, son, you got a song that'll live forever. Boy, was he right about that.
Yeah, they're few and far between, but the ones that are there are monster hits, and like you said, they still have that longevity to them. Yeah. Sonny Throckmorton was a great songwriter and a performer too. He had some great songs out.
Yes, he was.
And I know about the time
still doing it.
Yeah. And I know about the time Last Cheater's Waltz was out. I think right after that is the song The Way I Am, Merle Haggard did. And that was one that Sonny wrote.
Yep.
Good stuff.
He's written some big ones.
And you did a duet with Clint Eastwood about that time. Tell me what it was like to do a duet with Clint Eastwood. You're one of the few that can say that.
Well, behind every song there's a story. And if you've got a second, I'll tell you how it happened.
You bet.
I'm on the Urban Cowboy Tour with Mickey Gilley and Johnny Lee, and we're in Lake Tahoe, Nevada, playing at a big casino called Harrah's. And the Urban Cowboy thing was just on fire. I mean, it was just unreal. And I'm in the hotel suite one day, and when you're on the road, the band and the guys, you're out there a long time, and boredom will set in, and practical jokes will happen, So one day I'm in the suite, and the operator calls up to my room, and she says, Mr. Sheppard. And I said, yes. She said, I've got Mr. Clint Eastwood on the phone. And I said, thinking to myself, yeah, there's one of the guys in the crew or the band putting me on, So I get on the phone. Hey, Clint, how you doing, man? God, glad you called. How you doing? And after talking for a minute, I said, you really are Clint Eastwood, aren't you? Yeah, I am. I said, I'm so sorry. I thought you were one of the guys in my crew that was putting me on. He said, oh, no. He said, I'm a fan of yours. And he said, would you consider flying to L.A. tomorrow if I send a plane to pick you up and meet me in the recording studio and record a song called Make My Day? And he said, it's a catchphrase from my new movie, Sudden Impact. And I said, I'd be honored. So the next day I go to L.A. and I'm standing in the lobby of the recording studio. I'm there early because I still can't believe it's going to happen. And all of a sudden, there wasn't a big entourage. There wasn't a big limo that pulled up. There was this red pickup truck, about a 55 Chevrolet. I think it was the same one he used in Madison, radius of Madison County. Old red truck pulls up, and he climbs out by himself. And he walks up to me, and he said, hi, I'm Clint Eastwood. And I said, I'm P.G. Sheppard. He said, let's go sing. And so we spent 5 hours together in the studio. And that was a memory. And you know what? I haven't seen him since. I mean, I've talked to him once or twice since then, but we just bonded that day, and it was just such a fun time in my life. What a memory.
That's pretty cool. And that, that's a catchphrase that you still hear it today, go ahead and make my day. I mean, that's...
Yeah, everybody says that.
Yep.
Everybody still says that.
Well, I want to get to some of your newer projects, but I got a couple more questions I wanted to ask you before we get to that.
Sure.
You've been obviously in the country music and music industry for a long time, and you've seen various stages of popularity and all things come and go. Are you seeing a change in country music, kind of going back to the more traditional sounds?
It's funny you say that. It started happening, I guess, a couple of years ago, but here lately, in the last 6 or 8 months to a year, it's wow. I mean, I can't believe the amount of bookings that we're doing. We're working as much as I did almost when I was having #1 records, and the crowds are getting bigger again. They're like coming back, and I kept saying, I knew you were there, but what took you so long? And they said, well, we just missed what we were hearing a long time ago, and we're back. And so it's amazing that we walk out there and have crowds that sell out everywhere now. And the people, I can't believe that I walk out on stage after all these years and sing a song and look out in the audience and people are singing along with you. That amazes me. So, yes, there is a return, and it's been coming a long time, but it just has now hit where people are returning to the country music that they love. And there's nothing wrong with the new country music. It's just different. Yeah. But there's still a lot of my dear friends who are cutting great country songs today. Blake Shelton is still cutting some great records, and Brad Paisley, a dear friend of mine, cuts great country records, and Alan Jackson, and there's still a lot of great traditionalists out there. But then there's a lot of the new sound. So there's room for everybody in this business. There really is. But I am so excited to see the return to what I call classic country, and it's happening. It sure is.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that, and I've heard that from several other artists that I've talked to recently, and it's evident on my show too. We're getting bigger and bigger. This is the kind of music we play, and we're also seeing a lot of new artists come out of the woodwork. People like Mo Pitney and Amber Digby, and just a whole list of them that are doing traditional country, and it's great to see that.
I love Mo Pitney. I just did a couple of days with him on a cruise ship, Larry's Country Diner, and what a great guy, and he's just a super guy. He's going to be such a big star.
Well, he'll be glad to hear you say that. I was telling him, I've talked to so many that just really like him, and he was so humbled by that, and he's a nice
real
guy.
Deal.
Yeah, he is.
Real
he
deal.
really is.
And when you're the real deal, people can tell if you are or not, and he is.
Yep, absolutely. Are you finding internet and satellite radio a good source of getting your music out there as opposed to the mainstream radio stations?
Yeah, it's a huge thing. Satellite radio is so big, and And also social media has come into play with a lot of us acts of the 70s and 80s and 90s. And Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all these tools that are out there right now, we're able to reach people instantly by the thousands in just a few minutes, where, back when we were starting out, that wasn't, none of that was there. So it's a very exciting time to be able to do something this morning and have the world hear about it this afternoon.
Yeah.
So it's incredible. I mean, that's just the times we're living in. But, it's great to be able to have those tools to reach people that might not have heard of our music, in the last few years.
Well, that's great. Well, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but I'd like to talk a little more about this. This is a wonderful set, and I picked it up quite by accident a few years ago, and I didn't even know it was out, and I picked it up. It's 2 CDs of you doing these wonderful duets with people like Janie Fricke, Merle Haggard, Conway Twitty, George Jones. I mean, the list goes on. And then the DVD on there, it's just, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that you won an award for the documentary, for the DVD on that.
Yeah, we won what they call the Telly Award in Los Angeles years ago with Music Documentary of the Year. And I attribute that to the great singers that came in and recorded with me. I mean, we had everybody on there from the Oak Ridge Boys to Ray Stevens to, I mean, you name it. They were Crystal Gale, Lori Morgan. I mean, there was 22 artists on that.
Yeah.
And Delbert McClinton and even Engelbert Humperdinck. And, I mean, it goes on, Willie and Waylon and Merle. And so, yeah, that was an exciting time, although the 2 double set album actually never did really make it out. We are in the process now of doing a re-release with that this next year, and I'm looking for great things from that, because it was one of my labors of love and one of my most favorite projects that I've ever done, because of the caliber of people who came in to record with me.
Oh, it's a stellar project. Great songs, and I'm very happy that I have it. And I learned a lot about you looking at the DVD, and some of these songs on here are phenomenal. "Lonely on Lake Shasta" with Janie Fricke. What a beautiful song.
It's that song. My wife wrote that song, Kelly Lang, and Kelly is a great singer and songwriter. Matter of fact, she wrote all of Lori Morgan's last album.
Oh, wow.
And so Kelly brought me that song for the 2 CD duet set, and she said, I've written this for Merle Haggard, and because Merle lives, in Lake Shasta.
I wondered about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really a love song that she wrote about Leona Williams and Merle Haggard.
Okay.
And back when they were married, and because it was quite a love story. And so Leona had her career, Merle had his career, and so she wrote this song about 2 people who are married but have careers. And it's still one of my all-time favorite duets that I've ever done, and we even went ahead and included it in our new duet project that my wife Kelly and I did, called Iconic Duets, on our new CD. And it gets an enormous amount of mail, and I'm sure that to this day Merle probably has still never heard the song, although it was written about him. That was a well-written song.
Well, you and Merle did Song Man on there. I'd heard Merle do a solo of that, and then you guys did a duet of it on that album. Great song, too.
I heard that song out of an album at Cracker Barrel.
Yep, that's it. Yep.
I picked up a Merle Haggard album one day, and I said, this is a great song. I want to do a duet with him on it. So I called him, and Merle said, well, sure, man, if you want to do a duet, let's do it. So Merle's just that guy. He's just one of a great human being, and he did that with me. It was fun.
That's really cool. And how did you do the Conway Twitty one? I assume that was done.
We brought Conway back for just 1 week. I wish we could have brought him back. I miss him every day. He was one of my closest and dearest friends, and we were in business together for years. And my wife, Kelly, who, as we were just talking about, who wrote Shasta, her father was Conway's road manager for 25 years, Velton Lang. And
oh, yeah.
I'd always loved Why Me Lord, the song anyway by Chris Christopherson, but I always loved Conway's version in his shows when he would do it. And
oh man!
So I went to the Conway Twitty estate, and they're all still very close friends of ours, the family, and I asked them how they felt about me in Conway using his vocal, but building a whole new track musically, and setting his vocal in there with me to where I could sing with him, because one of my dreams was to do a duet with Conway, and I never got a chance to fulfill that. And so they let me fulfill that dream, and I was very proud of that. It was very eerie the night that I was in the studio, and I would hear his voice, and I would be singing with him. It was almost as if he was there.
Yeah, I bet he was. I bet he was.
Incredible. I think he was. Yes, I really feel that, because it was an incredible moment for me.
Well, I feel a special connection to him doing that song, like you said, he did it in concert, and man, what a performance! But the last time I saw him, it was just a few months before he passed away. It was very ironic because it was a package show with him and Merle Haggard and George Jones. It was a Living Legend show. And he had to leave early to go somewhere else to do another show, and normally he closed the show. So I thought it was interesting he had to leave so quickly. And the last song I ever heard him sing was Why Me, Lord. And a few months later he was gone. And I thought, how interesting that is that he did that song and he had to leave early, and then he left this world so early,
I had a chance to, like I say, we were in business together for years. I mean, we owned baseball teams and restaurants and hotels, and I always would lose a fortune every time I would get it. I would invest money with Conway. He was a great singer and songwriter, but he just somehow, I never connected with him on investing. So about 3 or 4 days before he passed, I was on my bus across the street from where he was performing, and I was performing at Roy Clark's. And I'm sitting on my bus one day, and he's out jogging with his shorts and his tennis shoes and socks up to his knees, the ball cap, Twitty Bird ball cap. And he knocked on the door of my bus, and he came in and sat down, and we talked for a good hour and a half, just visiting. And then a few days later, he was gone. And it was just, I've treasured those moments so greatly, being able to have that last long visit with him,
You bet.
He was a great man.
He sure was, and one of the best. Well, folks, I want to remind you to go to tgsheppard.com. Is your Partners in Rhyme project available currently, or is that going to be?
It's not yet, but it will be. But we have other things that are available on there. I have a gospel album that I did for my mother, who's 94 years young.
Oh, that's great.
I went in and recorded all of her favorite hymns to full orchestra, and then my wife, Kelly Lang, and I, we have Iconic Duets, our new duet project together. And then I'm doing something very exciting right now, Scott. I'm actually in the studio putting together my first country commercial album in 12 years.
Really?
And, and it's just absolutely, I'm finding some of the greatest songs that I have ever heard in my life, and I'm so blessed to have them. And it's a return to what I used to do. I used to love to sing songs that women could relate to without offending the men. And we have found some great, great songs. And so I'm back in the studio, and I'll take the biggest part of this year. And matter of fact, I think you're one of the first people I've told this to.
Well, thank you. I feel honored, and we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm actually haven't even announced that I'm back in the studio, but I am back in and tracking and having a lot of fun doing my first album in about 12 or 13 years.
Oh, great. Well, we'll look forward to that, and I'll make sure. Webster has been just great about staying in touch with me, and I'll make sure that
they're the best.
They are the best. They're great people, and my goodness, Kurt and Kay and everybody, just great people, and I thank them so much for they've thrown a lot of stuff my way, and we just kind of been going back and forth and promoting with each other, and they're good people.
Well, I wouldn't be in the business without them. They do everything for me.
You bet.
They're the best PR firm there ever was.
Well, as soon as you have that done, we're gonna get it on the air. I can guarantee you that, and everybody I know listening will look forward to that.
That gives me all the more reason to go do it, because there are people such as yourself who are there.
Absolutely.
Who will still play our music, and I thank you so much for that.
That's exciting news. Well, and I really love we touched a little bit on it, but the iconic duets with your wife, and she's such a beautiful singer, and it's got to be just a wonderful connection for the two of you to be able to make music together.
It really is. It's just absolutely, I never knew how great it could be to be married to somebody who understands what I do and what I feel when I'm on stage. And she knows that feeling. And to go on the road and have someone who totally understands what you go through. And because when people come to our concerts and they see our shows, they only see the show that we have built for them to hear or see. There's a lot to getting there. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes work from a lot of people that work so hard to travel to each city and to make sure it gets put up right and done properly. And it's great to have a partner in life who understands it all. And so we have a lot of fun doing some concerts together, although she doesn't go all the time, but we do quite a few together. And I always love having her with me on stage.
That's wonderful. Well, folks, I want to encourage you again, go to tgsheppard.com and visit them on Facebook and check out all the tour dates and the wonderful gospel album that's out and that beautiful album with Kelly Lang, Iconic Duets. And stay tuned for the re-release of Partners in Rhyme, which is a very favorite project of mine. I really love this thing. And, of course, new music from T.G. Sheppard later on this year. That's cool.
I got to tell you something, Scott, if I might compliment you for a second. You've talked about me for a long time here now. There are a few people, when you do interviews, there are people that interview you, and then there are people who just have great conversations with you. And it's not something that's easily mastered, but I want you to know that I think you have mastered the art of conversation, because today was not like an interview. It was just a great conversation, and I really enjoy interviews that just turn into conversations, and you're great at it, and I thank you for it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a pleasure talking with you. I enjoyed it very much. I learned a lot, and we talked about some great stuff today.
Anytime. Anytime you need me, I'm only a phone call away. All you got to do is just let me know.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, when you get your new album out, I would love to have you come back on, and we'll do a nice big feature on it, and we'll get it out there to the people. All right.
You know what? I'm going to make sure you get the very first copy.
Well, bless your heart. Thank you. That's awesome.
Believe me, I'll stick to that word.
Well, thank you, TG. I really appreciate that. That's cool. You just made my day.
Well, I tell you what, I sure enjoyed it, and like I say, anytime, just give me a shout, and we'll get caught up again, and I just really, really appreciate you supporting my music and still being there for me. I appreciate it very much.
Well, you've been there for us for so many years, and you've provided so much great music, and it's the least that I can do. I appreciate all that you've done over the years, and I have, I can go back and listen to some of your songs and remember where I was when I first heard it, and it's just it's good memories. That's the kind of stuff you take with you,
That's why we do what we do, is being able to make memories with it.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you very much, T.G. Sheppard. My goodness, that was fantastic. It's been a pleasure.
God, thank you.
And we're going to continue right now. I'm Scott Weichel. You're listening to My Kind of Country here on Fish Creek Radio. Thank you again, T.G. Sheppard.
Thank you, Scott.